Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Aaron Porras, and coming up in today's newscast, Israel announces a full lockdown over the Passover holidays effective today. A 90 billion shekel aid package scrapes by through the Knesset, and Israeli star judoka Sagi Muki puts up a very special auction to help in the fight against coronavirus. So stay tuned to hear what he's putting up for sale. With the coronavirus death toll in Israel slipping into the 60s Tuesday morning, Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has announced that the nation will be entering a full lockdown. All intercity travel will be banned by Tuesday afternoon, and citizens will be ordered to remain within their cities and communities, while residents in certain neighborhoods with high infection rates will be even more tightly secured. And on the eve of Passover Wednesday, everyone is ordered to remain at home completely until the next morning. The general lockdown, on the other hand, is set to end Friday morning, though later reports have moved that to Saturday night. And the final official guidelines for the lockdown have yet to be fully explained. Since making the announcement Monday, the death toll has risen. Over 9,000 in Israel have been diagnosed, and 153 are in serious condition, while 546 have so far recovered. Now, while the general lockdown may be scheduled to end within just a few days, though, health officials and advisors are still pushing for a very slow and staged reversal in restrictions. And this is not sitting well with everyone. Yet another quarantine escapee has been arrested in Jerusalem, and families separated from their loved ones, including from their children stuck in special care facilities, are understandably outraged. But the government insists that such extreme measures will be the only thing preventing a second and potentially more deadly outbreak.
בראש ובראשונה אזרחי ישראל, זה תלוי בכם. זה תלוי במידת מילוי ההוראות הקשות שאנחנו מורים לכם לטובת הכלל. היציאה תעשה על פי רמות הסיכון באוכלוסייה. הפתוחים ביותר יצאו ראשונים, ומי שנמצאים בסיכון הגדול יותר יצאו אחרונים. הם יישארו ככל שניתן בבידוד.
Now, for our first guest this evening, you might be surprised. He speaks fluent Hebrew, shoots videos every day for Israelis, and he thoroughly understands Israeli politics. But he lives thousands of miles away, and he became an expert in Hebrew pretty much by accident. And he's joining us to share the ways that China and Israel are working to combat the coronavirus pandemic. Say hello to Shi Xiaoqi, a.k.a. Itzik, a reporter for China Radio International. Itzik, thank you so much for joining us. שלום, ברוכים הבאים. מה המצב? איך אתה מרגיש?
שלום, שלום. מה שלומכם? אני ציני מבייג'ין. You can see that I speak Hebrew, but actually, you know, I also speak English, but all my story just started from 15 years ago when I started to studying in the university. And now I become a Chinese that speaks Hebrew and reporting from China all the day.
How did you learn Hebrew? You know, like, איך למדת עברית? מה היה המסע הזאת?
Okay, so actually I grew up here in Beijing, here in China until 18. And then I went to, it's a kind of a big, very, very big exam in Beijing. And there I can choose a lot of language to study. And my grandfather, he told me that you can choose Hebrew. Why Hebrew? He told me that the Jewish people are very, very smart. And they know how to do business, like in a good way. So I said, okay, so maybe we choose to study Hebrew. And yeah, you know, it's 15 years until now. And I really, really love enjoying studying Hebrew and also, you know, the Jewish culture, the Israeli culture.
Let's talk about the coronavirus in Beijing and in Wuhan. What's going on right now? You know, because we've heard that the coronavirus is no longer a threat, but other reports are saying that maybe it's coming back already. What are you seeing on the ground?
Okay, actually, tomorrow there's going to be the first day that in Wuhan that people are released. They can also go out, from Wuhan to Beijing, like everybody, and they already can go out to buy things, to go out of the shchuna and to do what they want. But the only difference before all the pandemic came, that everybody we put a mask.
All right, now Itzik, my final question for you today is, working so much in Hebrew and with Israelis from China, you've actually now started this aid package, to send equipment to Israel. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, of course. It's a month ago when we started here in Beijing and in Wuhan and in China, we feel a lot of fear and we don't know what is going to happen. The Israeli guys, my friends, they sent us to China, to Beijing, to Wuhan, a lot of equipment. So I feel a lot of love, a lot of encouragement, and we want to forget. We want to forget about this. So we took out our money, from the income that we want to help in our way. So the best way, I think, the most efficient way, that is to send some masks to the hotels. So that when it's a time that we have this a problem together, and we need to help each other. So I think it's also from us to our Israeli friends, from China to Israel. I think all the world, we need to work together, and we will make the world better, make the world much more beautiful. That's it. I think we'll continue to help people to get things from China to Israel, to help you guys after that we suffered all these things, and we want you to go over this.
All right. Well, I couldn't have said it any better myself. I'm so happy that our countries are working together, and that you have such an amazing story to tell. Thank you so much, Itzik. Tהיה בריא.
גם לכם. יאללה, bye-bye.
All right, now speaking of aid, with a narrow majority, the Israeli Knesset has passed an amendment to basic law allowing for a 90 billion shekel or $25 billion stimulus package. In a vote of 62-0, Israel's government is now approving another financial rescue deal intended to help Israeli citizens during the coronavirus pandemic. With over 25% unemployment and rising now reported, this bill will allow adaptations to the annual Knesset budget and deficit caps, so that citizens can receive needed financial aid. That 62-vote count may not have come from where you'd first expect, though. Prime Minister Netanyahu and Health Minister Yaakov Litzman, among others, were absent for the vote as they're in quarantine. Then other members of the right-wing bloc, like the entire Yamina party, skipped the vote in alleged protest over unity negotiations with the Blue and White Party. So who came to the rescue? Well, it was 3 final votes from the mostly Arab Joint List that pushed the bill through the plenum. And the supposed irony of the Likud begging the Joint List for help is not lost on Joint List MK Ahmad Tibi, who tweeted about it later. At any rate, the aid package includes a 500 shekel stipend for children with a maximum of 4 child stipends per family. Then there's another 950 shekels stipend for the elderly and a rise in unemployment pay. And simultaneously, over $4.3 million has now also been collected and earmarked for Holocaust survivors who are especially at risk during the coronavirus crisis. This was a private effort, however, organized by the New York-based Conference on Jewish Material Claims Against Germany, a group that represents Jewish victims of the Nazis in claims against members of the former German regime. And now joining us for more on the new Israeli stimulus package that comes just ahead of Passover, we have ILTV contributor and consumer behavior expert, Dr. Vili Abraham. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us. Now, we heard from Prime Minister Netanyahu yesterday that the Treasury is allocating a special budget of 90 billion shekels to deal with the coronavirus. Who will receive this assistance exactly?
All right, so we're talking about assistance that will be granted to both small businesses, also in the form of discounts on property taxes, which amounts to 2.8 billion shekels. And we're also talking about assistance that will be provided to families. Every family with up to 4 children will be granted 500 shekels for Passover, including pensioners and the disabled. 350,000 elderly individuals who are especially poor will receive in a large sum. They will receive 950 shekels.
All right, now supermarkets as well have been complaining about a severe shortage of eggs, milk, and flour. Right now, Israel is trying to import or subsidize imports from elsewhere, but they're kind of few and far between. We're not exactly getting enough to keep up with demand. Do you think that Israel is going to have other issues in terms of the supply chain with food?
Well, I think that the shortage in eggs, first of all, right now we consume about 10 million eggs a day, which is a lot more than the usual 6 million. And one of the reasons why there is such a significant shortage is because you have to remember that about 1 million Israelis who usually go abroad for Passover are here in the country. So there is more demand, and the government was not able to respond quickly enough. So we have a shortage of dairy products, and we also have shortage in meat. But I don't think it's going to get any worse. I think that the peak is behind us, or will be behind us after tomorrow.
All right, well, that's amazing. All right, well, it's a good thing to know that we're not going to run out of other food products anytime soon. Thank you so much, really, for joining us.
It was a pleasure.
Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
All right, moving on. Amidst the ongoing crisis, global flight traffic has grinded nearly to a halt, one airline after the next. But now Israelis trapped abroad have yet another obstacle between them and getting home, finding enough compatriots for the trip. The Israeli embassy in Argentina is now scrambling to find enough Israelis who need a lift back home to Israel, and they're not looking for much. Just 60 passengers are needed to fill the plane enough for the flight to take off. But registration ends Wednesday, and 60 people have yet to sign up, leaving up to 59 people potentially stranded in Buenos Aires, especially as it could be weeks or even longer before another flight back to Israel is scheduled. Now, the itinerary is with Ethiopian Airlines, and it's set to take off from Buenos Aires to Brazil and then direct from Brazil to Tel Aviv at a cost of roughly $1,875 per person. And again, registration ends Wednesday, so interested Israelis in Argentina are urged by the embassy to email Ethiopian Airlines at ethiopian.argentina@aviareps.com, subject line, repatriation to Tel Aviv. In other news, 10 days since his initial diagnosis, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has now been taken into intensive care with the coronavirus. And Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab has now been deputized just in case. So is the UK facing another major crisis? With us on Skype is international affairs commentator Tom Gross. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, what do we currently know about Johnson's condition?
Well, there was a press conference at midday British time. He's in intensive care, but he has not got pneumonia. And they say he's breathing with help, but not on a ventilator, which is important because when hopefully he recovers and he has not had to go on a ventilator, he will hopefully recover more easily and more quickly.
Do we know how he got the coronavirus, from where and with whom he may have made contact?
Well, in Britain, the building's very old. So in Downing Street, where he lives, it's also his office. And it's very, very cramped. So, it's impossible to socially distance on a cabinet room, or when you pass people on the stairs, you can't keep 2 meters away. You can barely keep 2 inches away. But, Boris was also a bit careless because in the initial days before social distancing about 3 weeks ago, he said it was policy just to hand wash, and he went around shaking people's hands in a coronavirus ward in hospital, saying it would be fine just to wash his hands afterwards, and maybe it was not.
All right, well, Johnson is known for his special character, especially on the campaign trail. Now, so from your personal acquaintances with him, do you think that he'll be able to channel this whole situation for political gain, or will he have to maybe even retire to rest?
Well, look, he's very, very ambitious, okay? We were both at the Telegraph newspaper at the same time, and whereas others were ambitious to maybe be a journalist, he was always ambitious to be much larger than that, to become prime minister or world king, as he famously said as a schoolboy. So he clearly didn't rest during the first days of having the coronavirus, which is why, or maybe why his condition deteriorated. So I don't think he'll give up this lifelong dream very easily. And I don't know. I mean, he may be forced to, but he will not be one to quit easily. And even if he's in his hospital bed, I suspect he's still trying to micromanage, or at least be involved from a distance. But I hope for his sake that he takes a bit of time to rest, to recover.
All right. Well, Tom Gross, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. Now, back in Israel, the judo world champion, Sagi Muki, is selling souvenirs from his star athletic career to buy respirators for the hospital in his hometown, Netanya. The champion hopes that with the help of these donations, the hospital will be able to save more lives from the corona epidemic. With us on Skype is Sagi Muki right now. So, first of all, it's a pleasure to have you here. Why did you decide to offer special items from your career in this auction?
When I see the effect of the coronavirus on people, it really hurt people, not only from the economic side, also from the health side. To think that somebody is sick and they don't have the equipment to live the life, so this imagine was killing me, and I decided to open this project.
How much money does the hospital need to purchase these respirators for the coronavirus patients?
I really want to raise how much money that I can, but every machine costs around $50,000. I can tell you, in one day we raised around $15,000. It's amazing to see the heart of the Israeli people and also the Jewish people in the world. I'm so happy to be part of this nation, this country, and when everybody is hugging me and supporting me all the way to my dreams at the judo and the Olympics and World Championships, I'm so happy to give back. So happy.
All right. Well, so speaking of giving back, then, what's the most special or your favorite item that's being offered at this auction?
Usually when we are fighting in the tournaments abroad, we fight with a patch on our back. That's our name and where we came from, the country are written there. All the athletes are competing with the blue patch. Only world champions compete with the red patch. So it's very unique. I sell it there. I sell also 2 belts of mine that I competed with on the tour. But the most important item is my judo uniform that I won with her the gold medal at the World Championships in Tokyo 2019. It's so emotional for me. It's a historic moment. Also, we have only. It's the first time that we have a world champion from the men's in judo. So it's historically moment not only for me, also for my country. And I decided to sell it for this war against the coronavirus.
All right. Well, I just want to say congratulations to you, of course, on your previous wins again. Chag Sameach, happy holidays coming up. And again, I want to tell everybody at home, check out Sagi Muki's fundraiser auction. It's amazing. See how you can help. Sagi, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, now the Jewish holiday of Passover is just around the corner, which means it's time to start stocking up on food and drink. But how do you know which wine is right to pair with your meal? Joining us all the way from Israel's largest winery with some help is chief winemaker Ido Levinson. So first, what should you be considering when choosing a wine for Passover?
Well, typically on Passover we are celebrating together, big families, and there's a variety of wines, different kind of varieties and origins, and we can choose from different types of wine that we typically enjoy on our table. But this year it's going to be, unfortunately, a bit different because of the coronavirus lockdown. So I think this year we should go with an all-arounder, a wine that would fit all kind of dishes and can also be drank nicely on its own. I think the best choice for this year would be the Balkan winemaker's choice, Cabernet Sauvignon. And by the way, just won the best value Cabernet Sauvignon in Israel. Hopefully you will enjoy that wine with you Passover dinner tonight.
All right, now Passover is a very specific holiday in terms of the kind of food that you're allowed to eat. What kind of wine do you recommend pairing with Passover dishes?
Well, for the beginning, I think the best choice would be a white, actually, if we can choose and have one white and one red, or more than that sometimes. And if I have to choose one white, I think a Chardonnay, like the Chardonnay Classic from Balkan, is a very good choice, because Chardonnay is quite neutral, yet it's aromatic enough. So it can give us. It's very enjoyable on its own, and it's very good with fish, very good with cheese. It's very good with chicken, and if we are talking about fish, then of course gefilte fish. That's the right wine for it. So Chardonnay Classic, yeah.
All right, now Most people think, of course, of countries like Italy, Spain, and France when it comes to wine, but Israel has an even longer history of winemaking, right? What makes wine in Israel stand out?
Yeah, well, actually, Israel is much more ancient than these countries. This country started, this wonderful country started producing about some 2,000 years ago, and Israel has been making wine for about 5,000 years. So it's one of the most ancient wine-producing countries in the world. And there's a revolution, There's a revolution in Israeli wines, and we can offer very interesting types of wines coming from the desert to the Galilee and Jerusalem and Judean hills and the plains. So it's a unique terroir, it's a unique soil, climate, and the combination with the varieties that we grow here makes some wonderful wines.
All right, so how can you get your hands on a bottle of Balkan wine? It's the final question. Do you deliver worldwide?
Well, Balkan is exported to more than 30 countries, so I'm sure you can find our wines in your homeland. And main markets are, of course, the US, Canada, then France. So now, with the coronavirus, I'm sure everybody is delivering, and you can have our wines right at your doorstep.
Ido, thank you so much for joining us.
Welcome, thank you.
All right, now with the coronavirus putting day-to-day life on pause all around the world, there are major industries that are feeling the pressure. Others, meanwhile, are taking the unscheduled calm as a well-deserved break. And ILTV's Nittany Manson brings us the story.
All around Israel, the effects of the coronavirus are clear, from the streets of Tel Aviv to the now silent Via Dolorosa, or Way of Sorrows, in Jerusalem. The once packed holy site is quiet, and with only days to go to the Easter holiday, people are finding it strange.
Now it is a little bit sad to see that the old city is empty and that, in fact, nobody is able to walk the Via Dolorosa, but we know that in this moment so many people are walking a personal Via Dolorosa, because when I think to those who are in the hospitals and in the houses fighting with coronavirus, in some way they are walking a very hard and personal Via Dolorosa, and I hope that for every one of them, the end be a resurrection.
But while the silence of COVID-19 hangs in the air, surprisingly, there are those who are benefiting in a way. Wild animals, for one, have been taking to the abandoned streets all over the world. And as for those in captivity, well, the inhabitants of the Ramat Gan Safari are taking the lack of crowds as a nice break. Especially the new additions to the zoo, who are getting some intimate time alone to get to know their mothers as well as the zoo staff.
Animals in the safari, since there are no visitors, they have less interaction, it's quieter for them, they're not sure what's going on, but the keepers come to see them a lot, they give them lots more exciting things to interact with.
The children, I'm sure, miss the animals very much. It's very difficult for us at this time. It's sad for us that, the zoo is so quiet. We miss the rush and the hustle and bustle of the families coming here at this time of year. But hopefully this all will finish soon and we can go back to normal, and all the animals here can go back to a normal life here.
All right, now let's take a look at the weather forecast. It was a very pleasant 56 degrees Fahrenheit or 13 degrees Celsius in Tel Aviv today with partly cloudy skies. And then tomorrow is expected to stay nice and warm with a slight rise in temperatures with a high of 69 degrees Fahrenheit or 21 degrees Celsius. And now before we go, let's take a look at what's going viral in Israel. Wow, that is the smartest, cleanest social distancing dog I think I've ever seen. It's amazing. I have to teach that one to my dog later. But on that note, that is it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.62 shekels to the American dollar. For more news from ILTV, please like ILTV on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube and Roku TV pages. I'm Aaron Porras, and thank you so much for watching. And by the way, happy Passover, happy holidays, happy Mimuna, and we'll see you when we come back.